Europe itself is the beast, in its political and religious dimensions. St. John is telling the story of Europe in its secular, political dimension and in its religious one. Now, consider that one aspect of the distinction between the beast and the seven heads, which are said to be attached to the beast, is that the beast, the empire, when distinguished from the seven kings or heads, represents primarily the political aspect of Europa, the woman. The seven heads in Rome, on the other hand, the seven Roman kings, represent primarily the spiritual or priestly leadership of Europa, as well as the spiritual transformation that occurs in Europa as a result of their actions. There are thus two facets to Europa, the woman on the beast, just as there are two facets to other empires or societies. There is a political aspect and a religious one. That's why, by the way, the mark of the beast, which Europa gives to its inhabitants, has two components. There is a physical mark on the currency, without which no one can buy or sell, and a spiritual mark on the hand or head, the new sacramental system in Europa given by the priest kings. This physical mark has been fulfilled in the euro, the currency of the European Union. The mark of the empire, the map of the Union, that is the beast, is on all of the coins and the cash of the European Union, and no one can buy or sell without it. That is the fulfillment of the prophecy in Apocalypse 13:17 about how no one can buy or sell without the mark of the beast. In fact, in the year 2013, the European Union did something which strikingly confirmed this point, a point we originally published in 2010. In 2013, the EU decided to add the image of Europa, the woman riding on the beast, directly to its banknotes. Here are two videos put out by the European Union concerning the addition of the image of Europa to the banknotes.
Portraits have long been used in banknotes all over the world, and research has shown that people tend to remember faces. That's why we chose to include a face in the second series of Euro banknotes. The hologram and the watermark include an image of Europa, a figure from Greek mythology. Our continent was named after her, and we found a perfect illustration in the Louvre of how she was depicted over 2,000 years ago.
Ce vase est un cratère qui servait au mélange du vin et de l'eau. Au centre de l'image et au premier plan se trouvent les deux protagonistes. Donc à gauche, cette jeune femme, donc bouclée, parée de bijoux, donc un collier, des bracelets, vêtue d'un vêtement finement plissé. Et devant elle, donc un taureau d'une blancheur éclatante, nous disent les textes, et qui semble s'incliner devant elle dans un geste de révérence. Il s'agit bien donc d'Europe et de Zeus métamorphosé en taureau.
Welcome to the Eurocash Academy. My name's Europa, and I'm your guide. This module is all about Euro banknotes. They have been circulating for a while now, so to keep them secure, a new series is being introduced. To find out more, watch the video.
So, the European Union's banknotes, which already had the mark of the beast/empire, will now include an image of Europa herself, the woman who sits on the beast. That corresponds precisely to what St. John saw, the woman sitting on the beast. This is an obvious indication that, just as we pointed out, the European Union is the beast out of the sea, the beast which St. John saw. This beast has its mark, that is, the map of the empire, and now the woman Europa, who represents the empire, on its currency. It's also interesting that the image of Europa is called a water mark. Now, the reference to the mark of the beast on the hand or head is clearly a reference to a spiritual mark. It echoes statements in Deuteronomy and Exodus, in which marks or signs on the hand and head denote spiritual signs or marks. Read Exodus 13:16 and Deuteronomy 11:18. about the spiritual marks or signs on one's hand and between one's eyes, that is, on the forehead. The mark on the hand and head is not a physical mark. In fact, the description of a spiritual character or emblem on the hand or head corresponds to a sacramental character in Catholic sacramental theology. Catholic theology teaches that souls are marked or signed in baptism, confirmation, and holy orders. By its reference to a spiritual mark associated with the hand or head, the Apocalypse is indicating that this spiritual mark is part of a new false sacramental system imposed by the spiritual authority in Europa, the evil antipopes leading the counter-church in Rome. These evil kings, particularly the antipopes of the Vatican II sect, institute a new sacramental system in Europa which replaces the traditional sacramental system. As the heads of the churchgoers are marked in certain sacraments, such as baptism, the hands of the priests are anointed in ordination rites. The reference to the new mark on the head is thus a general description of how lay people are submitting to the new sacramental system of the beast, and the mark on the hand, evoking images of priestly ordination and the anointing of the hands, concerns a general description of how members of the clergy are submitting to new ordination rites and thus the sacramental system of the beast. Hence, the beast, Europa, imposes its mark both on its currency and on people's hands and heads. It has a political entity impose the mark on the currency, without which no one can buy or sell, and it has its religious leader, the kings in Rome, the antipopes of the Vatican II sect, impose the spiritual mark on people's hands and head. It's also interesting that in Mark 12:14 and following, when Jesus is asked about the mark or image on the coin of Caesar, which was the mark on the coins of the empire, he responds by making a distinction between a physical mark or image on the coins and the currency, and the spiritual mark or image on people's souls. I believe that's another indication that the mark of the beast has a twofold aspect or two components. There is the image or mark on the coins and the currency, imposed by the secular authority, the modern-day Caesar, which represents the secular authority's power, and there is the spiritual image or mark on the souls of men, which results from submitting to the new religious system of the empire. It should also be noted that the Apocalypse does not say that those who buy or sell with the mark of the beast go to hell, but rather that those who receive the mark on the hand or head, the spiritual mark, go to hell. See, for example, Apocalypse 14:9, 14:11, 20 verse 4, etc. That also corresponds to Jesus' teaching in Mark 12, in which he says that it's not wrong to use the image of Caesar on the coin, as long as you keep the image on your soul for God. The Apocalypse also says that those who worship the image of the beast go to hell. It says that this is the image of one of the kings who is wounded. That worship of the image of the beast, the one who is wounded, which brings damnation, also finds its fulfillment with Europa's spiritual authority, as we will see. Furthermore, the reference to a spiritual mark on the hand and head does not mean that everyone who has ever received an alleged sacrament in the new sacramental system in Europa is forever branded by the mark of the beast. Rather, it is a general description of how people are obstinately submitting to Europa's new invalid spiritual authority, the antipopes, the evil kings in Rome, and the new church and sacramental system they have imposed. For example, the new form of Mass, which is Protestantized and invalid. Thus, both the political and religious aspects are involved in Europa's story, the story which St. John tells. It's interesting that Europa was a figure from pre-Christian Greek mythology. That is, she was depicted before the birth of Christ. Europa, therefore, was obviously not Christ's bride before he came. She was a pagan woman who represented the pagan peoples of Europe. But then Christ came, and Europa began to convert, and the Roman Empire beast persecuted her. Europa cast off her paganism and became Christ's bride. In time, the church triumphed and overtook the empire. As a result, the Roman Empire dissolved and became a Christian one. Europa, who had been a pagan woman sitting on a pagan beast, was now a Christian territory and a Christian Europe. That's why the beast was, but is not. In the last days, however, the beast is returning in a new form. Europa is casting off Christ and returning to paganism and anti-Christian ways. And this demonic spiritual transformation of Europa has revealed itself not only in the shocking godlessness of modern-day Europe and the indescribable evils emanating from post-Vatican II Rome, but in an entirely new political union, a new empire, a new beast that makes no mention of God in its constitution and endorses and imposes many other evils. Apocalypse 17:12-13 also tells us that the 10 horns in the beast receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast, but that they deliver their power to the beast. That fits precisely with the European Union as well. The 10 horns are the European nations, the nations which the Roman Empire also occupied, and each nation receives a kingdom within the EU, but the kingship of each one is nominal, and ultimately at the mercy of the beast, the EU, which determines the laws and the policies for each nation or king within the Union. Hence they deliver their power to the beast. The new empire, the European Union, openly uses the image of Europa, the pagan woman from Greek mythology who rides on the beast, on its currency and in other ways, to signify its rebellion against Christ, to signify that she is a free woman uninhibited by Christ's laws or truths, when she is actually in bondage and headed for destruction.